Welcome, everybody. You can find the agenda linked in chat. Please add any topics there. First off is Ogazan to discuss limits around policy stuff. Would you like to introduce this?
Yes, actually, Nicholas is also here from our product team. So they are trying to productize like IAM and STS into our Ceph clusters. So one item came up is when they looked at like there's a link down below in the line starting with reason. AWS seems to be imposing some limits. Like if you look, there's a table right in the middle of that page in that link. For example, how many policies per role kind of thing. The length of the trust policy, how many characters the default and max is, how many roles per account, kind of like account concept is not there yet in Ceph, but eventually it's going to be there. So based on their testing, for example, length of trust policy, there doesn't seem to be any limitation imposed by Ceph. So we're not saying it's good or bad, but eventually, if, let's say, Ceph also would like to impose those limits, it may cause issues down the road. Like if we like implement this thinking that there's not going to be any limit, but let's say a year later there's going to be a limit, it may cause problems. So I just wanted to get an idea whether there's any plans to set any limits around the role, like its metadata, etc. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason for this item. Maybe if you don't want to impose any limit, maybe we can do an implementation based on that. But I'm guessing AWS libraries, SDKs, might assume these limits will be there, perhaps. So implementation maybe based on the fact that like there's going to be limit, although Ceph doesn't like impose it. So
yeah, I think we only validate some of these things. In general, I think we should have limits for all of them. I think it's just a question of whether we should use the same defaults as Amazon, whether we should make them config options. And we might want to make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. But in general, I support adding limits to all of those things. We don't want to end up in cases where something has thousands of policies and takes forever to evaluate requests.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as a next step, if there's no relevant tracker, maybe I can open one like to track this issue, and or product team can realize their implementation thinking that there's going to be limitation. So although Ceph doesn't like honor those limits yet, I think that would be
a tracker issue would be a great start. I guess what I'd like to see is kind of an audit of what limits we do enforce and where we're missing them so that we can knock those off one at a time.
Yeah, we can add some details to that tracker as well based on our testing. Yeah. That's pretty much it on my end. And if Nicholas has any further questions or comments, I saw him in the meeting. Otherwise, yeah, we can move on to the next item.
Great. And you mentioned the accounts implementation, and I've been working on that. I think it's pretty much feature complete, but it's had 0 reviews, or I think there's more test coverage to go.
That was in my list to like do some testing on my own, but I couldn't get to it. Maybe it's something I can bring up to our product team as well. If they any free cycle, they can experiment with the accounts as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been, yeah, the PR itself is now over 100 commits, so I understand that it's hard to review, but if I can find somebody that's willing to kind of go into it with me, then we can figure out ways to split it up and make it easier to consume. Also thinking about doing maybe like a demo or code walkthrough to at least cover what's there and what's not. I wasn't planning to try to get this into Squid, but it kind of seems like it's in a place where it could make Squid if it gets reviews and testing. So maybe I'll prepare something for next week's refactoring call, and we can try to decide then.
I think a code walkthrough is a good idea. Like, uh, I think that would speed up the review process as well. I don't know who's going to review, but at least for testing side, we can do some testing as well on our end, some basic testing.
All right, I'll plan on that for next Wednesday. Okay, any more thoughts on just the limitations before we move on?
Yeah, so I was looking at the Red Hat documentation for Ceph, and it seems that like for some like requests or for some like fields and requests, there are like limitations of like 2048 characters. I can like paste a link in the chat, but yeah, it isn't from testing. It doesn't seem like there is a limit, but I'm wondering, is there like also a limit to the number of permission policies a role can have at max, or like the number of trust entities that a assume role document can have? Or are those do those need to be tested as well?
There is no built-in limit on the number of clauses you can have in your policy document. Not for the IAM bucket policies, at least.
I see. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting that the Red Hat docs seem to be wrong there.
Cool. Yeah. If there's a like a link where I guess I could track this issue, I'll just follow that. But otherwise, thank you everyone for your help.
All right, let's move on then. Sorry, I'm hugging the agenda. The next three are me. Yeah, first, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page with the topic metadata migration work that's going on. Don't see Krunal or Yuval on the call, so we'll just follow up offline. We have a feature branch and we're making progress there. Ali Masarwa's been doing a great job on the migration logic itself, but I just want to make sure that we get test coverage on that. Anybody have anything to say about topic metadata work? All right, moving on. Object integrity. This is a feature that Matt is working on. There's a link to the PR. I did a review yesterday and found some API coverage that's missing around multi-part uploads, although it seems to be doing the right thing for normal single parts. And I guess I'm just not sure. Maybe the multi-part part could be out of scope for Squid, at least initially, if the single part stuff is useful. Or I think that we could reasonably implement that for Squid.
Yeah,
Do
my
you
thinking
have
was
any
we would.
thoughts there, Matt?
My thinking was we'd finish it. I don't think it's gonna be hard. You wanted to avoid loading the part objects. I think in your comments on IMTZ's version of the earlier version of that, I'll follow your lead here. But I think I don't think there's much logic, and I think the hard part was getting all the checksums to work the same as the armor and all that, the way that it's required to interrupt with AWS, and we already have that.
Yeah, I was a bit confused by the format of the SHA hashes when I was testing because it wasn't the same format as SHA-256 sum, but
It ain't. You just
Yeah.
learn. I made those things so they self-verify, and we can make that work. It's obviously useful, and all those other external tools follow us that convention, that hex convention, and AWS does not.
Sorry, what convention does AWS not?
Basically hex encoding the ciphertext.
Okay, right. Yeah, I updated the S3 tests that I had written, and I ran those against AWS and saw them passing there. So just yeah, I think we're good. We just need to fix the multi-part cases, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to help with that.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, I'll work with you this week, and but I think if we know, I assume this is not far, and because we got the hard part already done with Alias's help, right? Getting the signature changes in, those are the basis for this, and then yeah. So yeah, I'll work with you on that.
Sounds great. Okay. Moving on then. Yeah, the last item is just an announcement. We are doing the code freeze for the Squid release this Friday, which means that we're going to fork a Squid branch off of main that will end up being the release branch. So after this Friday, anything that needs to make Squid is going to have to merge through main and then get backported. And we'll be using the normal tracker issue process to track backports to the release branch. There's still a few features like this checksum stuff and all of the topic metadata that definitely needs to get in. And so that'll just have to follow the backport process. Same for any bug fixes that happen between now and the release. Any questions about that part? And I guess when you guys create new tracker issues and fill out the backport fields, make sure that you start adding Squid because they'll have to go through that. And that's all I have for the agenda. Any new topics that you guys want to raise? Shilpa, is there anything that you want to talk about around multi-site or testing for the Squid release maybe?
Yeah, hi. So I've just started a workload test for the Squid release. It's still in progress. I don't think that's it's going to take a couple of days. Oh yeah, thanks Matt for reminding. And we have a PR that introduces a new header for replication called X-replicated at. Just trying to get the PR. 1 second. And I think this was one of the requirements or something that was requested by Bloomberg folks, to sort of get to sort of be able to take a difference between the time when the sync is completed and the source object creates, so that you get the replication lag. So I have added a PR in the chat here. It would be nice to take a look and see what exactly is your requirement, and if we need something else from the PR. Matt, did you want to add something?
Well, no, that it was Matt Leonard who was highlighting, and I think a couple of people here is acknowledging that this is critical for your uses. I mean, the model here will. The one point is that the model here propagates a replication time to the destination. It doesn't repropagate back to the origin. And maybe that, and maybe no one ever wanted it to, but I wanted to. But I think something in the way that was described to me in New York City made it sound like that was an aspiration. So feedback on that would be interesting from Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Because no one's speaking.
I
So in
think
other
yes,
words,
in terms of visibility into like replication.
Right. So if you want to understand when Tom was replicated to Jerry, you access Jerry and look at the headers.
Yep. And also the other thing we are interested in the other replication headers, right? I think Alex may have a better idea, but the replication status basically, that's something. Yeah, that one, Casey. Yeah, we are really interested in those to increase our visibility into multi-site.
Yeah, the hard part about the Amazon's replication status header is that it requires us to update the source after all of the destinations have replicated it. And we don't have a good model to do that. So the replicated at header and the replication trace that we added previously is kind of a compromise, sharing information that is readily available.
I mean, there's an obvious way to go about getting it back to the source, but I don't know if the way they're doing it, the way Amazon does it, it makes sense completely for us. But I mean, we could put it back into the replication logs at the other endpoints and consolidate something at the source eventually.
I can add this as a topic for next week as well, if you guys want to come back and discuss more on it.
Sounds good. And in the meantime, I added the squid milestone to your replicated at PR. So we will plan to take that for squid when it's ready.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
It's a very small PR, so I think it would be pretty easy to backport to other releases if there's interest. Okay, anything else on multi-site or testing for squid? All right, anything else at all?
I think Krunal is here if you wanted to talk about the topic metadata.
Hey, Krunal, welcome. I did have on the agenda just a status update for the migration work.
Okay.
I think you're aware of the status just from the
From the
email.
emails, yep, I know. Yep.
But if there's anything that you want to update or ask about here.
Nope. So I mean, nothing as such. Just wanted to curious, like, so the plan is to finish this before the freeze, right?
Not necessarily. We're keeping it in a future branch, and
Okay.
we're planning to freeze on Friday. So I think next Monday we could start looking at merging the pieces that are ready.
Okay. Cool. Fair enough. Thank you.
All right. Anything else for today? Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.